Hi everybody, this is Kurt and welcome to the Kurt Winters YouTube channel, dedicated to bringing you advice on collecting cars and celebrating the history of these amazing machines. Today's video will be about the top 5 quirks of the C4 Chevrolet Corvette that you need to know before you buy one. C4 Corvette was sold from 1984 through 1996. This example is a 1994 in competition yellow with around 85,000 miles on it. I purchased it from a small dealership on the Texas-Oklahoma border in a town called Bonham. Think John Bonham, like from Led Zeppelin. Now I purchased the car for $8,000 after negotiating the price down from $11,000. This took about 2 months of contacting the dealership and letting them know how serious I was. No, I'm not a master negotiator. I was just polite and persistent. Now that you have the backstory on this big yellow boat, let's get to the quirks. Number 1, getting in and out of the car. So this is the first thing you're going to notice if you test drive a Corvette C4 is just how much real estate the door seal takes up and how little room is actually in the footwell. It's very oddly spaced. Now, there's really no easy way to get into this car, especially when you look like a big, pale Gumby. But I'm gonna demonstrate how I get in and out, and maybe this will work for you. So I'm gonna come up to the car, take my left hand, plant it on the door seal. Then I'm going to fall down into the seat, swing this leg over, swing the other leg over, close my door, and I'm in. Now, Corvette pro tip, you want to make sure when you're getting in and out of the car that you're not grabbing the steering wheel and putting your weight on it. Why, you ask? The steering wheel is actually a weak point in the C4 Corvettes. These cars were sold to a lot of baby boomers. So you think about people in their 50s and 60s. When they're getting in and out of this car, they were grabbing the steering wheel and putting their weight on it. What this does is destroys the tilt feature of the steering wheel. So if you're purchasing a C4 Corvette, you want to make sure that you give the steering wheel a good shake to make sure there's not a lot of play, because this will be an item that you may have to replace later. Also, keep in mind, getting in and out of this car is not necessarily easy. So if you have a physical limitation or if you're handy capable, you may want to keep this in mind before purchasing this car. Okay, number 2, the tires. Let's take a look. One thing you're going to want to keep in mind when you're purchasing a Corvette C4 is you cannot rotate the tires from side to side or from front to back. So let me explain. We'll walk around up here to the front. The back rim is actually wider than the front. So if you're like me and you like to keep fresh rubber on your car, or you like to rotate your tires to extend the life of them, you cannot do this with a Corvette C4. The tires are not able to be rotated, and essentially GM designed the ability to rotate the tires right out of this car. So if you come around to the back, it's really easy to see just how wide these back tires are. It gives the car an awesome stance, low and wide. Now, I've already researched replacing the tires on this car because I was worried about the cost, hearing of all different stories of tires costing $300–400 a piece. Well, this is not really the case. I visited my local discount tire and was able to find an above average tire for about $180 a piece. So when it does come time to putting new rubber on your C4, it won't be outrageously expensive. Okay, number 3, the giant hood. Now, most cars, you pop the hood latch, you walk around to the front of the car, and you unlatch the hood. But there's no latch here. Weird. So with the Corvette, it actually opens from the back of the motor. So what you're going to want to do is grab the fiberglass hood, pick it up, and you notice it comes all the way up and forward. And when it does come up, you have full access to the engine, and it's very dramatic. It's kind of a reoccurring theme in this car, the drama, the theatrics of owning a Corvette. You can't simply open your hood like a normal human. It has to be up in the air. It has to say, look at me, come over here. Speaking of which, let's check out this motor. Now this Corvette with an LT1 engine makes about 300 horsepower and 350 pound-foot of torque, which will really get this thing moving considering it only weighs around 3,200 pounds. Corvette fun fact, this hood is the largest piece of fiberglass that was ever put on a production car. It is massive. When it opens up, all the bodywork comes up, similar to a Lamborghini Miura or another type of high-end supercar. Again, adding to the drama and theatrics of this awesome Corvette. All right, number 4, battery removal. Now, in most cars, you can pop the hood, undo the battery, pick it right up, go down to AutoZone or Walmart and get you another battery. That is not the case in the C4. So if you're buying a C4 and it has a dead battery, or the owner goes, the battery starts sometimes, or if you see the battery and it's 1,000,000 years old and you're gonna have to replace it, keep in mind that's not going to be the most simple process. So let me explain why. To actually remove the battery, you have to undo bolts here and undo the bodywork. Then you have to remove bolts from the underside of the car. There's also a bolt here and here. At this point, the actual whole panel of the car comes off. So let me say that again. This whole panel comes off of the car. So don't rip it off, don't tear it off. I've heard horror stories about Corvette owners not understanding how to access the battery. Once the panel comes off, you undo the battery, the positive, the negative, and the battery actually slides out from the side of the car, just like this motion. And you want to be very careful when you're doing this, because you don't want to scratch the paint or damage any of the bodywork on your nice Corvette. Now, I've also heard Corvette owners say that they take pieces off from the top of the motor to get to the car. You can see there's a lot going on here, and I'm not even about to start taking pieces off the top of my motor to get to the battery. The GM suggested way of replacing the battery is, once again, to remove all the bolts, take the panel off, and slide the battery out. Now, luckily, when I purchased this car, the battery was fresh. It actually says 618 on it. So I may not have to replace this battery for a while, but when I do, I'm gonna be sure to make a YouTube video about it so you guys can see just what goes into taking the battery out, because it's not flipping easy. Oh, you're still here. Well, if you're still hanging out and watching the video, don't forget to subscribe and push the little bell so you get notifications when I release new videos, and also hit that like button so it helps out the YouTube algorithm. Now let's get to number 5, the ASR, or traction control. Let's take a look at where it's at in the motor. Now, in the early 90s, traction control and stability control were still not a common feature on a car. And GM developed a primitive form of traction control called ASR. Let me show you where it's at in the motor. It's right here, ASR. Now, I believe the acronym stands for Assisted Slip Regulation, but I'm not completely sure. So you can comment below if you know what that acronym stands for. Now, this form of traction control is very different than today's modern cars. Here's what I mean. Whenever you're coming around a corner, or let's say you're mashing the throttle and your back end starts to spin out, the gas pedal will actually send vibrations to your right foot. And it's a very, very weird experience. I've driven lots of cars with traction control and stability control. Usually the light comes on, the computers work, the car rights itself. It's really a seamless process now in 2020, but it's not the case in this car. When the ASR activates itself, the gas pedal will actually vibrate and let you know, hey stupid, you need to slow down. So let me show you what I mean. As you're driving, if you're coming around a corner, or if you're mashing the throttle too hard and your back end starts to swing out, the gas pedal is going to push towards you and actually begin to vibrate, which is a very strange sensation. Now let me show you how to deactivate the ASR. It's located right here on the left side of the instrument control panel. And you can turn it on or off from right here. Now, I leave my ASR on because I don't want my Corvette to wind up in a ditch. But it's good to know if you're driving this car that the traction control is right here, and if you're driving stupid or silly and that pedal starts to vibrate, slow down and save a Corvette's life. All right, so those were the top 5 quirks of the Chevrolet C4 Corvette. We're so glad that we brought this car to the channel, and I want to thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.